Good morning. It's great to see you. Thanks for stopping by the shop today, where we've got a little bit of a different project than we typically tackle. And what we're looking at here is some deck furniture that I've got that's seen better days, obviously. The covers obviously are in terrible shape, and in my opinion are really beyond redemption, repair, restoration. Anything that we could do to salvage these is just not going to work. So we're going to work on coming up with a replacement for those. But once we get the covers off, we can see that the cushions themselves are going to need some attention. They're splitting along the seams here. The cloth material that the covers are made of seem to be, other than being dirty and needing a good washing, are in pretty good shape. But I think the stitching along the seams has started to give way, and so we're going to need to restitch those. Got a plan for that. There's a little bit more over here. And then finally, the wicker material is because of being out in the sun so long, the UV rays of the sun have started to wear these away to the point where they're weakening and breaking. So we're going to go on the old interwebs, see if we can't find some sort of close match at least, and then see if we can't figure out a way to weave in a repair patch of sorts. We're going to start with the cushions, because I think those are going to be the easiest, quickest fix. Then we're going to move on to the covers, using the old cover as templates. We're going to cut out some material and see if we can't fix those on the cheap. And finally, we'll see if we can't repair the wicker material. The first thing I think I need to do is to take the stuffing out of each one of these cushions, and it looks like it's in there just kind of loosely. So I'm going to pull it out and put it in a plastic bag and store it there. So I want to keep the amount of stuffing with the appropriate cover. So I've numbered I've numbered each plastic bag. First thing I'm going to do then is unzip this and then start pulling this material out. All right, that looks like that is empty, and we're going to want to flip this around so we can get at the seam, and that's what we need to sew. And I'll probably sew all around the whole thing just to reinforce it. But that's the first one. So I'm going to empty all of them out first before I start sewing these, and then we'll show you how we do that. Okay, I've got all of the stuffing emptied out of the cushions that we're going to repair and placed into the corresponding trash bag. So now I guess we figure out how we're going to sew those covers up. So hang with me, we'll see where we get. Now this workbench and I go way back. In fact, I've got a video coming out soon that goes into a little bit more detail about my history with this workbench and what it means to me. And if that sounds like something you'd be interested in taking a look at, check the playlist out. If it's not already out, it will be soon. I've used a lot of different tools on this workbench over the years, but as long as I can remember, I've never used one of these. But that's the tool we need for today, so that's what we're going to use. As I recall, I don't recall. I don't recall it ever really being used. We couldn't really figure out how to string the thread through, and the bobbin, and the blah, blah, blah. And there just wasn't a whole lot of incentive to do that for whatever reason. But I've got some incentive today, as we've got to get these cushions sewn up, and I certainly didn't want to have to do them by hand. Well, that is going surprisingly smooth. That looks pretty good. I will take that any day of the week. I think that's going to work just fine. Well, Well, okay, I got the 4 cushions that needed the most attention taken care of. These are the seams that were previously ripped. That's 1, that's 2, that's 3, and that's 4. And I'm not going to win any sewing contests with those, but they'll do for what we're trying to accomplish. Okay, so we're back with clean covers. Just take these and stuff them as full as we can, and then we'll shape them up later. Okay, so the first cushion is finished. That didn't take very long at all. 2 or 3 minutes to fill that up. Made sure we got enough stuffing into the corners and zipped it up, and it seems to shape out just fine. I think it'll be okay. The stitching is going to hold up just fine. I'm not, as I said, going to win any sewing contests with it, but I think structurally it's fine. Certainly a lot better than it was. So the rest of it is really just wash, rinse, repeat. I don't think I'll bore you with any videos showing us filling those things up, but we'll check back as soon as those are done, and we'll go on to the next part of this project. Well, there you go. All 4 of the cushions are patched and cleaned and refilled, and I don't see any holes in them, so I think I'm going to call that part of this project complete. I'm happy with that. I think that'll work at least for another season or 2, and I guess we'll just take it as it goes. So on to the next part. And so here you go. This is the next part of the project, and that is doing something about these covers. So we could go out and purchase new covers, but I think we're going to try to see if we can't make some on the cheap by using this tarp that I picked up at Walmart. So I cut up and separated the panels and laid them out here so that we can use them as templates. And we decided we're going to put the brown on the outside. Anyhow, we're going to use these different pieces, and we're going to cut them out and stitch them together. So you can see I've laid out one of the side pieces here. I decided to center them on the grommet so we can take advantage of these grommets for tie downs. I'm going to measure off of those. So let's mark that up and cut it up. That's one. That dotted line is where I'm going to sew. Okay, that's that. Okay, so we've got all the pieces of the new material laid out, just like we had the old pieces laid out before when we had cut them up to use them as templates. And we're going to start assembling things. We're going to start with the back piece to the top piece, and then we're going to connect the front piece to the top piece before we do the sides. So that's the order of business. I'm going to start in the center of both and work out from the center to the edges. As you can see, I've got creases here, and that's going to cause for some differentiation at the edges, and that's okay. I can deal with that on the edges, but if we start at the edge and we move towards the middle, that's going to cause some bunching and stuff in the middle. So in order to find the center, all I'm going to do is fold each piece in half and mark the center piece. So right there is that edge. I'll pull it tight, and we'll mark the centerpiece of this one right there, and we'll do the same thing with this one. So I've set up this table just because it's easier to work on a table versus off the floor, and then I think we're also going to use this as our sewing table going forward as we put these pieces together. I've oriented these 2 panels so that the outsides are facing each other, As you can remember, we are going to use the brown side on the outside. And then I've set them up so that the center points are lined up. And I'm just going to use this piece of double-sided tape to keep them in place. And I'm going to put that all along the edge. We're going to make a little bit of an audible here. We're going to change things up with regard to the machine that we're using. The larger machine that you see there that we've been using has been giving me some problems. I'm not exactly sure what's going on, but it continues to get stuck and jam. I think that's probably one of the reasons that it might have been sitting on a shelf for so long. So I've got this little handheld thing here, but I'm going to see how that works. That actually might work a little bit better in the corners as we start putting the pieces together. As far as how we're sewing it, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to start in the middle and work out towards the edges. So here we go. See how this thing works. Boy, have I made a mess in here. But, that happens when you're working on a project. I wanted to take a step back and perhaps provide a little bit of a better orientation or perspective on what we've been doing. So these are the three pieces that we've been working on. This is the bottom front piece. This is the top piece here. And we stitched that long line first. That's the first one we did. And then this is the back piece, and you can see the seam right there. I'm happy with that. I like the way that the seams seem to have come together. So that gives you a little bit of a better idea, on what we're trying to accomplish here. We've got to work on the sides next. It looks like it fits just about right. After looking at this a little bit closer, I was concerned that the original side panels that I cut out, these ones in brown here, were just a little bit too short to make it all the way to the bottom and the top. So I recut them with plenty of space to trim if I need to. As I said before, we can always trim some away, but we never really can add any once we've trimmed it off. So the old measure twice, cut once type of thing. I just want to make sure that the bottoms fit. At the same time, the top and the sides come together. At the same time, you can see that the original piece that I cut was a little wider, and I did measure again on this, and the distance between here and here is 36 inches. From where this hangs to where that hangs is 36 inches, and I made this 38 inches wide so that we've got an inch overhang on each side. Well, here we are several hours later that I finally got this one end piece finished, and boy, I was on the struggle bus with this one. This was not as easy as those first three straight pieces that I did, and really the challenge was, the lining up all of the angles and the corners and making sure that everything fit together as well as it could. Now, it's not perfect, but I think it'll work for what I'm doing, and hopefully the next one will work out a little bit better. I didn't really film any of it because, to be honest, I sewed it and took it apart at least a couple of different times, fitting it and trying different things. I think that I've got a pretty good idea of what to do this next time around. So on this one, I connected the top piece first and then tried to make sure the bottom pieces, lined up at the bottom. And that, as I said, didn't work out real well. So I think this next time around, I'm going to start on the bottom on both sides, do one side up and the other side up a little bit, and then work my way from there. And then once I get to the top here and make sure that that's fine, I'm going to work my way from one end to the middle and the other end of the middle. And I will try to share, more of that process with you as I go through it. Okay, we're starting on the last side here, and I've got these matched up so that the two pieces that we're mating are facing each other. The brown sides are matched. This is the bottom, and that's the bottom. And so we're matching up the bottom starting from there, and we're going to sew from there and move up. This is the front corner. Let's fit that, see how that fits. So what I learned, or at least one of the things I learned from doing that far end down there, was that it's a little bit more prudent to make a small, commitment to a sewing area and then fit it and then mark it and maybe make another small move and then fit it and then check it and then adjust it and then make another small move and so on, rather than big long swaths that you later have to undo because there's a lot of adjusting to do. So I'm going to sew till right about there, and I've made a mark on the other side of this right there. So that's where I'm going to sew to. You kind of almost have to think backwards and upside down sometimes with doing things like this. I don't know if that makes any sense or not, but that's what I'm doing, and I'm just going to take my time here and finish this up, and then we'll fit it. I'm going to sew it right about there. All right, so here's a better look at things. I've finished up that seam to this point right here. So I've sewn from here to here, and now I'm going to do the other side over here. And you can see the bottom is lined up, and that's when I'm going to start. I'm going to start at the bottom, and I'm going to work my way up here. You can also see that I've got plenty of overlap here to work with, especially on the top side. I'll worry about the top side when I've got the two sides done. Then I'll fold this in and hopefully have an easier time of matching that up. Okay, I'm going to take this off and we're going to put it on the table. We're going to match up the bottom edges again, and then we'll start sewing it. I'm taking a ruler and I'm marking from about an inch from the edge or so, maybe just a little bit more. So I've got some kind of guide to go by. And again, we're probably only going to do till about here, maybe even here, and just check it and see how it is. But you'll remember when I was measuring this out, I said that we had made this piece 38 inches wide, and the space that we had to cover was 36. So there was an inch on either side for exactly this. So now I've got that matched up, and we're going to go ahead and see if we can't sew that just to about here, and then we'll fit it, see how it looks. Well, I forgot to hit record to show me joining those two pieces together, but I think you get it. You've seen enough sewing by now to probably last you a while. But I did join those two pieces for the first, 10 inches or so, maybe a foot. And, it seems to be fine. The bottom matches up reasonably well. And we're going to continue on. I probably will sew for another foot or two, check it again, and we'll just continue with the process. That's pretty close. I think I could tighten it up a little bit more by just putting a stitch inside this stitch closer to here, and and see how it looks. Just like that. Okay, if I can stay on that line, I think that's going to look pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. This is not a professional job, but I think we can safely say that it is going to be just fine. So I think this piece is done. We'll get to working on the chair. Well, it's the next morning here in the shop, and last night we finished up the cover for the 3-seater. As I mentioned, I'm pretty happy with that, and it's time to move on to the chair and the footstool, which is really all one piece. The cover on that was just one piece. And here it is right here. I've laid it out already. I've taken the old cover apart for templates and put it together. Now the interesting thing about this is that we have obviously the two side pieces, but the piece that went over the top and down the front was all one long piece. And I am going to do three separate pieces like we did with the cover for the three-seater. A front piece, a top piece, if you will, and then a back piece. The back piece here is going to go up the back here. The top piece that I'm standing on right now is going to come down on an angle from that and then attach to this front piece here. So just like this one, a back piece, a top piece, and a front piece, and then we'll attach the sides. We'll fit the sides on that once that's all done. So that's the plan. Okay, I got the front piece and the top piece and the side piece connected here, and you know the stitching looks pretty good, but as I fit it on the chair here, obviously there's a lot of overhang on this, and the reason is that I guess when they put this first cover together, you know, they separated the chair with, you know, the ottoman, the footstool piece there by quite a bit, and as I recall. And that's one of the reasons why you get this big staining here, where there was a lot of pooled water there. And what I want to do is actually shove these together so that, you know, when they're covered, you know, they're a little tighter together. So I'm going to have to take this apart here. I'm going to cut those two pieces out a little bit, shorten that up a little bit, and then resew them. So that's another audible that I'm calling on that, and another change that I'm making to the original. Okay, so there is the revised version, shortened up version of the piece. I just took a little bit off of this piece here and a little bit off of this piece here, and matched them together so that they're, you know, about 2-3 inches off the ground. This piece I left alone because I'm happy with, you know, how far that's off the ground. And as you can see, the chair and the ottoman are shoved together, and I think I'm going to like that a lot better than, you know, something that's a little longer and allows for water to collect, you know, in this spot here. We'll move on to the sides now. Okay, that didn't take too long. I got this side piece edge connected to the back piece, and I've started down the top piece as well, just about 6-8 inches. Obviously, I'm going to have to trim this. This is also cut long enough to do the extended length cover, and I've shortened it up a little bit, so I'm gonna have to trim an end off of it as well as trim some of this top piece here. So I'll do that in a minute, but I wanted to kind of bring you up to speed on where we're at. It's going well. Okay, so we finished this seam up along here all the way down to here, and we got to do this corner here, and then we'll just do the other side. Well, okay, that completes that. I've got it sewn up all the way around. I've completed the corners. Is it the best sewing job in the world? No. Will it do? Absolutely. So we'll move on. And I know we talked about repairing the wicker, but this video is getting kind of long already, and that is probably going to be a little bit more involved. So I'm going to call an audible here and save that for another day. We got 2 of the 3 things that we wanted to accomplish taken care of here, and as the famous crooner Meatloaf once sang, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. So I'll take it. Listen, I hope that you enjoyed this video. Hope you stuck with us all the way through this. Hope I didn't bore you with too many details, but I certainly enjoyed it. I learned a lot. I hope you did too, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Thanks a lot.